What's going on YouTube? Dave back again, and today, well, as promised, I've been working on doing a set of videos for you guys all about working on resin, since that's kind of my specialty. So this video is going to be number one out of a series of videos where we're going to end up working on this guy. If you saw my unboxing and everything, this is the shoulder pauldron for the PG Zaku conversion, which turns it into the Goof Custom. And if you remember, there was a piece that was broken on here. Now, along with a couple other things, it has some seam lines that need to be cleaned up, a big one that's on here. It has the tabs that need to be clipped, and it has the panel lines that need to be redone. Along with that, there's some of these rivets that are on here that are kind of messy, and I want to clean those up and actually replace those, and I'm going to show you the products and how I end up doing that. I'm figuring this series is going to be, it's going to be several videos long. I don't want to make them super long. I want to make a couple of really short ones. This video is going to be based on the products and stuff that you need to start with in my recommendation for working on resin. Now, everybody's a little bit different as far as what they prefer to work with, and the glues and epoxies and pinning and not pinning. But this is what has worked for me for several years, so I'm just passing my knowledge on to you guys, the viewer. Now, things that I don't have listed here would be something like Dawn dishwashing soap, and I know some people use a brake cleaner. I use a product called Purple Power, and it is a heavy-duty degreaser, and you can get that at Walmart. And I think you can order it. I usually order it on Amazon, and you can get it into like a liter bottle and dilute it down. I have a tendency of I'll just dump that into a container and just use it straight. I will warn you guys though, you do need to wear protective gloves, neoprene, rubber, whatever it is when you're working with the stuff, because it leaches the oils out of your hands super fast, and it'll leave them dry and cracked and just feeling really nasty. So with any of these cleaning products, except for soap of course, I would just recommend using protection on that. Sometimes, depending on how the kit ends up looking, I will just use Dawn dishwashing liquid. I do have a step that I end up using though. I will use a degreaser when I first get the kit to wash it, to get the demolding off of here and just all of that, because nothing can ruin a paint job faster than having that on your kit. Doing a primer layer, doing your paint, it can cause it to crack, orange peel, flake, pop off. And so I'll use the degreaser first and foremost. And then once I'm done sanding, I'm done doing everything else, I will wash it in something like Dawn to get the hand oils that will naturally get on there. It's a degreaser, but it's mild, and that will work perfect. And a soft bristle toothbrush. I don't have that up here. If you guys want to see a process of doing that, just let me know down in the comment section, and I'll bust out a video on doing that. The next step that I usually recommend is lay out all your parts as far as what you're going to be working on, and then just separating them into baggies, be it the arms, legs, head, shoulder. That way you make sure that you have all the parts and everything's accounted for. You can count for any broken pieces that you need to fix, things like that. So with something like this, we already know that we have a broken part. And something that I'm going to end up doing, and it may not be the wisest, guys. It may not be the wisest, but I want to show you how to do it. So I'm actually going to, once I'm finished making this video, I'm going to do a video on how to, if you just have a clean break, on how to repair that. And then I'm going to punch some holes in here. And I'm going to show you how to fill them using my technique of super glue and baking soda, and or using something like an epoxy sculpt, something like that, to fill that in and basically make it disappear. So enough yammering for right now. Let's get over what I end up using. I have multiple different types of sanding sponges, sticks that I end up using. As I've said multiple times, I'm sure already, there will be links down in the description of the tools that I use and where to pick them up for the cheapest price that I end up finding. I use the Tamiya sanding sponges. You can cut the little squares out of these and use those. You can use them wet or dry. And with resin, one of the things you want to do is Some people do it like wet sanding. I personally do dry sanding, and then I'll rinse off the piece and then go from there. For me, I get a better feel for the texture and everything doing dry sanding. Now, something I use religiously are nail buffing files, or just nail files in general. I have a multitude of these in different grits. These, of course, are the sponges. These go from 400 all the way up to 1500, which is kind of overkill. And then I have these that I have in multiple grits that I use for everything. This is pretty much a finisher. It's a buffer and then a polisher if you need something like that. Usually I use this though on the plastic kits, but these come in super handy because they're soft, they're squishy, and they conform to things like this. And you can trim these down for your smaller pieces. You of course will need a hobby knife, nice sharp hobby knife, and I personally prefer the design knife over one of the bigger ones that has the bigger blades because I have better control over cleaning things up. And when you're assessing your piece like this, you'll see that there's little blebs in here. You can get in there with the design knife. You can kind of clean up those lines as is, but with something small like that, there's a bleb that's on here, and you guys can probably see that right up in there, and that'll come in handy for just shaving that out and then knocking it down. And like we discussed before, in the panel lines here, those are kind of wavy. I do have scribers. I will show you how to end up doing that. But if you're in a pinch, you can just use your design knife to scribe out the lines. Something else that is good for having this is also once you trim this down, you can use that to work it down the rest of the way to make it a little more level. You will need something to cut resin with, mostly on these. So I have the Vulcan nippers, which have become my favorite. I have some Tamiyas. They're on the desk here somewhere. And then I have these. These are the Mr. Tools. I'm not a big fan of these. I ended up picking them up and don't really like them, and they're kind of rusting right now. I don't know why. But anyway, you just want some cheaper nippers for trimming off things like these. And you might want to wear eye protection. I'm horrible about it, but when you're clipping nubs and things like that, you want to clip this way. That way the pieces go away, not into your eyes. If you wear glasses, cool. If you have safety glasses, just pop them on when you're trimming that. It'll make it better for you. If you are sanding them with just doing dry sanding, you might want to pick up like a dust mask and just watch your area, vacuum up afterwards. Just think about safety first. Next up, you are going to want a drill. I like this style right here because I don't get as many cramps in here. Your hand can be in here to support it, and this is used for either drilling pinholes or drilling out holes. You will need one of these. They come in super handy. You can use them for all kinds of different things. They're super cheap. I think this one was $6, and it came with some drill bits, and then I actually replaced the drill bits with a set of Dremel bits, which are super sharp, and I have never needed to replace them. Come in super handy. Great buy. Next up is files. This is more of a plastic file. I just grabbed it to put it here with the others. This is a Tamiya basic file. It works great for roughing down things and getting them where you want them. This right here is a Simon's, I believe this is Swiss made file set. They do make different ones. They make diamond files, and then they make like the diamond files in the different, this is a number 2 cut. And these work great for both plastic and for resin. It comes in multiple different shapes in here. You've got round one, you've got a triangle shape, you've got an oval, and you've got your regular flat on here. You can do these with a handle. You can put a handle on them if you want, but I just keep them like this. It makes them very manageable to work with. These are almost a necessity, especially if you have a resin piece that has flat panels on there, for leveling that out and making it nice and flat. Now, as mentioned before, and I will show you guys in a dedicated video, I have a container here of baking soda. This is for my super glue and baking soda mix, and this is for filling in gaps, pinholes, things like that. And you can also, on blades, tracks, stuff like that, you can also make texture, which will look like either snow or can look like mud, depending on how you end up doing it and applying it. Just a thin layer. I'll show you guys how to do that in another video. But yeah, so you can do that with this. Comes in super handy, super cheap, easy to do. And this is virtually, once it dries and cures and everything, which is almost instantaneous, but once it cures, this is almost as hard as resin. It's super awesome. You've got something like this. Now this is epoxy clay. They also make epoxy sculpt. It's a 2-part epoxy resin, and you can take a part A, part B, mix them together, knead them together. It makes a putty, and then you can fill your gaps. You can even create new things. You can create hoses, rivets if you want, just all kinds of stuff. These are super handy. They come in different sizes. There's some like this, which are in the super small pots. Something like this will last you a very long time, because you're not sculpting a whole head or anything like that. If you're just doing it for small parts, just get the small container, even just to try it out to see how it ends up working. Something else that I do end up using every once in a while is the Vallejo plastic putty. This can come in handy just every once in a while if you just got something really super small that you're wanting to fill, like a pinhole. The downside to this is it does shrink a little bit. So if you're painting over a pinhole, just put a little extra on there, let it dry, and then sand it down. One of the last things on the list here is going to be glues. Now, they make several different types. You've got Bob Smith Industries Insecure, Insecure Plus, Insecure Thick, Insecure Thin. They make all kinds of different ones. But here recently, within the last year, I have really fallen in love with this stuff. Now, this ends up being about $3 a tube, and the tubes are pretty small. But this is a gel. It's super thick, and a little bit goes a very long way. This has been the perfect thing. Like, I can do a little dab on something like a piece of foil and then take a toothpick and run it onto the piece that I want, put it together, squeeze it, and it's set like that. So that stuff is super awesome. Something else that you can end up using is a 5-minute quick epoxy. And again, this is very similar to this, except this is in liquid form, and this is part A, part B. You mix them together, and it stinks to high heaven. You're going to kind of want to either open up a window, put a fan in there, or do it outside, because these can stink to high heaven. It smells like perm solution or rotten eggs is what it smells like. But you can use these for adhering bigger resin pieces together. Now, something I haven't pulled down onto the desk is if you're wanting to do something like you were wanting to pin this to this, or you're working on a figure and it's got arms and legs and you want to pin the pieces together, you can use brass rod. You can use a coat hanger. Cut that down. Do not use your hobby nibbers. Cut that down into sections, drill out your hole, put it in there, glue it in, and it'll secure that. You can use florist wire. You can use pretty much anything. I even use paper clips, larger paper clips, smaller paper clips. It all depends on the piece itself. Just drill it out, slide it in there, glue it in, and you're good to go. Your imagination is your only limiting factor. Look around for scrap stuff and you can probably use it. I know people, and I have seen people overseas that actually use toothpicks as pinning rods. The reason being is they drill it out and then they slide the toothpick in, and when they add the glue, it causes the wood in the glue to expand and fill up any gap that's in there and create a pretty solid object. It seems to work pretty well. Great little hack. Alright, boys and girls, I know I made this video probably a little bit longer than I wanted to, but I wanted to try and get everything into one video for you guys. And yes, there's extra things that you can end up getting. Saws, this, that. And if we come across a situation that we need that, that's fine, and I'll show you guys. But these are pretty much the basics that you need to work on resin and to be able to complete a job. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. There will be links down in the description to all of these items, and I will see you guys all in the next video where we'll start working on this and getting things all glued together. As usual, YouTube, I will see you guys all in the next video. Peace out.